Next, we will open to cure.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yeah, my mic ostensibly is on.
Let's try again. How's that? Okay, you audibly, Madam Chair. I want to just state for myself at the outset why I think we're here. As the speaker said at the outset in different words, we're really not here to blame, but we are here to assure accountability. The two are not the same thing. And we do have an oversight role. I think we're not here to dwell on the past, but we need to be here to assure that there's real authenticity to this partnership that's been discussed. There's been a lot of discussion today, with which I agree, about the importance of the executive and legislative branches working very closely together on legislation that can truly change the world. So that kind of a partnership can only exist if we're being genuine with each other and the public. And so that's why I think we're here, is to understand where the action really is. Obviously, as a substantive matter, and I think as a procedural matter, the issue revolves around the controversy about cap and trade, ultimately. And the administration is more enthusiastic about cap and trade. The legislature, by and large, is more skeptical about cap and trade. Because the legislature is looking at the experience of reclaim and the experience in Europe and wondering whether cap and trade can be the driving force that really achieves the goals here. So I want to talk about these issues a little bit. But I want to begin so we can truly understand what's authentic with Mr. Skopek. You say you're here voluntarily today. Are you here on behalf of the administration?
I am here voluntarily. I don't work for the administration anymore, but I have experience in many things that happened today. So I apologize again for using the word we.
I'm not asking for that apology. On whose behalf do you speak today?
Only my own.
Who designated you to be here?
I was asked if I'd be willing.
You were asked by whom?
The governor's office.
To speak on whose behalf?
On my own, on my experience of what I saw and what I was part of.
So when you said that the accounts that have been given to us by Dr. Sawyer and Ms. Witherspoon are fiction, you were speaking on whose behalf?
My own.
Well, on what did you base those conclusions?
My experience, my presence in the meetings, my listening to the conversations that happened.
Okay, it's easy to cast aspersions and generalities. What specifically is false about Dr. Sawyer's testimony?
Dr. Sawyer, we're going to get into a long he said, she said, if that's what you're interested in doing.
What I am interested in doing,
okay.
What I am interested in doing is getting the answer to the question.
Okay.
I asked, what specifically is false in Dr. Sawyer's recitation of events?
Dr. Sawyer blamed control of his press officer and said that the administration wrote a quote on his behalf. What he didn't know is that his press officer had a quote written for Dr. Sawyer given to him, and he was supposed to get approval from Dr. Sawyer, and he communicated to the agency that he got that approval, but he didn't. So as a result, Dr. Sawyer thought that the quote was written for him, but in reality, his press officer failed to inform him of that. Dr. Sawyer thought that the administration was forcing him to come up with a certain amount of, an incentive program for Tesla Motors, when in truth the administration was just inquiring as to whether this is a possibility. In the end, the governor's office chose not to do it, and that decision was made, but the inquiry did happen. On the early action items, the concern was that these things hadn't been fully vetted and that they were coming in at the last second. It wasn't that there was a certain number or that any particular one was wrong. The support of the administration was for the staff proposed 3 early action items. I think that a larger amount of my comment about whether these things are fact or fiction relates to the comments of the executive officer.
Okay, we'll get there in a second.
Okay.
But as far as Dr. Sawyer is concerned, you've identified 3 items. The source of a quote, whether the initiative program for Tesla was being directed by the administration or merely suggested by the administration, and some controversy around the early action items. And those are the 3 elements which you think Dr. Sawyer incorrectly stated to us.
Right.
What did Ms. Witherspoon say that
many blanket statements about the governor's influence on the formaldehyde rule, on the construction rule, on how we spend the 1B bond money, the overall inference that the barriers came down and the governor's office was influenced, everything, all those things are more fiction than fact.
Based on your experience in the administration, who is the ultimate source of the directions from the governor's office that relate to the ARB and its authority?
It depends on the issue. Sometimes it's the cabinet agency, sometimes it's the ledge agency, sometimes it's legal, sometimes it's communications. It really
Is it the
depends.
governor?
Oftentimes, but oftentimes it's communications from his staff to us. So, but it really depends on the issue. I mean, there's different segments in the governor's office, and we interact with all of them based on, whatever we may be up to at the time.
Did anyone consult with you about your testimony today?
I did talk to them.
With whom did you
Yeah.
speak?
Members of the governor's office. I don't want to get into details.
Why not?
I don't think it's appropriate.
Why not? Is there a specific rule, legal or otherwise, that precludes you from stating with whom you spoke?
I don't know if there is or isn't. I just don't think it's necessary to talk about who I talked to.
Well, the reason I ask the question is, we're trying to oversee a process by which landmark legislation is being implemented. The allegations have been made that there is interference in the effective implementation of that landmark legislation. You are here today at the request of unnamed people within the administration. You declined to state who asked you to be here. Ostensibly, some of those people have a role in implementation of AB 32. When I asked you who was the ultimate source of the directives from the administration on AB 32, it was not an offhanded question. So, please answer the question.